Hi everyone, I'm going to go over in a few videos, at least two, your research paper. So first what I'm going over is what you would find in your syllabus. This is the syllabus document, and I'm going to scroll down to the information about the research paper. So it's letter C. Research paper and related assignments all together will be worth 50% of your total grade. So you're doing an investigative research paper, and to do that, you're using research questions to investigate your topic. So the goal is to answer your research questions through the process of your research and writing the paper. Okay, so you're going to have 2 to 3 research questions, which you've already submitted a draft of, and I've given you comments. Research questions can change as you do your research. It is different than a thesis statement, where a thesis statement has to stay exactly the same because you're testing it. That's different than an investigative research paper. Your research questions can change dependent on how your research goes. Your goal is to make them broad enough to have enough to talk about in the length of the paper that's required, but not too broad so that you try to do too much. Because you want to dive in deep into your research to answer your questions. You don't want to just skim the topics and do such a brief version of your answers that it's just not in depth enough and not valuable. So you want to dig in deep, but not make it so focused that the answer is very short, right? So there's a balance between the two, and that's kind of an art, and that's why your research questions can change as you progress. Okay, so you already submitted a draft. You'll change those probably. The next thing that's due is due this Wednesday, tomorrow by 11:30 p.m. You're going to provide a list of your first 10 sources. You'll list the source as you would in a works cited page. And then under each source, so you list the citation, the author, the publisher, the date, the volume number of the journal, etc., etc. And then you have bullet points briefly, succinctly describing what is pertinent about that source, what you've learned from that source that you'll use in your paper. Okay? You want to paraphrase, do not copy and paste. Paraphrase so that you are not plagiarizing. Okay? Put it in your own words, the information that you're getting from the journal or the source. Now what you can do is you can put some facts in quotes for now in this portion of the assignment so that later you can paraphrase or use those facts in different ways. So you could be a little more creative about how you're adding the bullet points, but you are not just copying and pasting from the source. You have to be paraphrasing and saying why it's relevant or pertinent. Okay, and your list of sources must be from the approved list. That's in the syllabus. We'll get to that in a minute. Then this Friday, you have another thing due. You'll be submitting a draft outline and revised research questions. I will go over what should be in the outline momentarily. Might be in the next video. Then Tuesday, June 4th by 11:30 p.m., you're going to submit 10 additional sources, again with the bullet points for each. So by then you should have 20 sources total, but you're just submitting 10 additional ones at this point. Then Thursday, June 6th by 11:30 p.m., you're submitting your title, your final research questions, and a final outline with revisions based on my comments, okay? Or also based on any additional work that you've done. Wednesday, June 12th by 11:30 p.m., you're submitting a draft of your paper with figures. So your draft must include all of your headings and subheadings. It must include at least the introduction written and the background section written. Any additional portions you have written is great. I can edit and give you comments on additional written portions. That's up to you. The more you submit, the more I can edit and give you comments, and possibly the higher your grade. And then the final paper is due by the 21st, 11:30 p.m. Okay, the approved sources for the research paper that I mentioned earlier are listed here in your syllabus. This is a geography class, and it's an urban geography class. So first and foremost, you should have geography journals as sources. You must include some geography journals, and some of them are urban related, like Urban Geography is a great journal for this class. There's a lot in there. And then I've listed a number of other geography journals that could be useful for your topic, depending on what your topic is. There are some other geography journals, so if you find another one with geography in the title, you're welcome to add them to this list. There are also some sociology and planning journals that could be useful for these topics, and such as urban sociology, urban studies, city and community, and then journals listed on this link. Okay, those are the planning journals. Books can also count, but they should be related to geography or a book written about a particular city. Okay. The U.S. Census Bureau has a site online which you can use as a source as well. Please do not get U.S. Census Bureau data from other secondary sources. For example, if you go to Wikipedia or you go to citydata.com, they may list information provided by the U.S. Census Bureau, but it's a secondary source. Go straight to the source. Get it from the Census Bureau, because you can only trust primary sources. Okay. You can also get information from government agencies. I just listed a few here that might be relevant for your paper. There are a lot of government agencies, and they have reports online that you can use data from, for example. Okay. Think tanks. There are a lot of think tanks out there that might have reports or different types of sources that would be useful to you. My go-to are the Urban Land Institute and the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, but there are a lot of them, and I've provided a link to a list of think tanks. You can also use reputable NGOs. NGOs are non-governmental organizations, but are highly reputable. The Data Center, for example, is one that's all about New Orleans and Hurricane Katrina. And this is another one, Urban Refugees. There are a lot of them. Too many to list. Just make sure that if you're using one of these organizations that they're reputable. And if you have a question about this, you can always post a link on the discussion board called Questions for Professor and say, hey, Dr. LaSalle, is this a reputable NGO? Can I use this site? And I'll check it out and I'll let you know. Okay. Using newspaper and media sources online are okay on a limited basis. I'm sure you know that media sources are highly biased, and we want to try to keep this a scientific research paper. Okay. There are instances where using media is crucial for a paper, like if you're examining how media portrays something, right? How it portrays a place, maybe after a disaster. This is common in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. The media portrayed Black people as looters and white people as just finding food and water for survival. So it depends on what you're doing, whether media sources would be appropriate. Generally speaking, you should minimize these types of sources. Okay, something like the New York Times or the Washington Post or a reputable paper would be okay on a limited basis. Okay, and you've chosen your topics, and I've given you comments on your topic selection. So if you weren't aware that I'm writing comments giving you feedback, look in your Blackboard gradebook and you'll see those comments. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Trying to make these videos a little shorter. I will have at least one or two more.